Greetings, Viva la Renaissance listeners. Welcome to another episode. It is autumn here in Nevada City. We are just coming up on Thanksgiving, and I have a great episode for you this week. We're going to talk to drama therapist, musician, singer, and actor Nicole Brucato Cooley, who is a dear friend of mine, and Nicole and her husband actually came and stayed with me for a week this summer during some of the wildfires. It coincided with them having to evacuate Tahoe. And well, lucky for me, they were stuck here because they helped me build the stage. It took us about a week. The whole project, kind of got bigger than we thought, but that was like the big first push to get the foundation of the stage made. So it's a 14 by 16 foot stage. And as many of you know, I have been here since May 1st of 2020. I moved up to the Sierra foothills in a town called Nevada City, which is not in Nevada, and it is not a city. I'm out here in the mountains, and my little studio is right on the precipice of some lovely, beautiful flowering into its full potential. I am building a combination studio. So it's a home for my visual art, my painting, all the things I make, including my costumes and props for all my shows, my cabaret shows, theater shows, films that I want to make. I made a movie here during COVID, which you'll hear more about shortly, Elf-Colored Glasses. And yes, so this studio is kind of a combination artist Elks Lodge, where I host people and do little tiny shows, maybe for 20 people most, and also can film things here and send them out into the world. And all kinds of things are possible with this stage. I consider this like an offering. This is my offering to the gods, to the angels. And we are fundraising right now, trying to raise money to get this finished and accepting lots of material donations, equipment donations, just getting the word out about it. I'm very resourceful with the money, so we're shopping around and buying things used and making it stretch as far as we can. There's never really enough money. But we are trying to raise, the original amount was $14,000. I think we've raised $1,700 so far, and also have gotten some more materials donations. So that's going to drop that number down. And on Thanksgiving Day from 4 to 6 p.m. we'll be live streaming from here. We're doing a telethon, an old school kind of telethon with telephones. They aren't plugged in, but we'll be recording things on our phones, and it'll be on our social medias. I'm trixie.little.official, and Donny Boots is on contemporary aliens, and also I have esoteric folk art. So that's going on. And it's all to raise money for the stage. So go onto our GoFundMe. It's called Hatch the Nest. You can find it on my website. You can find it on vivalarenaissance.net. And yeah, consider a sizable contribution. There's some beautiful gifts that we're handmaking and sending out. But also, if you've just been following my journey and are interested in really seeing this big leap move forward, I'd be really grateful. It's been a very long journey. I've been trying to do a version of this since I left New York in 2017. Anyway, it's going to be a great time on Thanksgiving Day, and our fundraiser could really use your support, and I'm very grateful for it. It's an investment in your future, in your entertainment future. I promise you will be very entertained by all the things that are coming out of here. So we're just trying to get this construction project finished as efficiently as possible. So thank you in advance for your contribution. Thank you for your generosity. Thank you for listening. And I hope you have a really great Thanksgiving too. Now, moving on with this episode, we're going to hear from Nicole Brucato Cooley, who is a drama therapist and a very accomplished singer and an actor and just a wonderful human being. I think, you're just going to love hearing her. And at the end of it, you're also going to hear her sing a song, which was recorded here at the Nest, just on my phone. She's accompanied by her husband on mandolin and Donny Boots playing some backup. And before we get into the interview, we're also going to hear the astrological weather forecast. This is a new little segment that we're putting in. So I hope you enjoy. Happy Thanksgiving. And now, the astrological weather with artist in residence at the Nest, Donny Boots.
Oh!
Donny Boots is a Vedic astrologer who has been practicing his art at the Nest. He has been educating me in all kinds of exciting things. And so I'm asking him to do a little segment on the astrological weather to help you all be prepared. So, Donny, what's going on and what's coming up? What give us the lay of the land in the stars.
Well, things have been a little bit wacky coming out here on the other side of the longest full moon lunar eclipse since the Renaissance, which is quite interesting.
Very interesting.
To think that the last time there was an eclipse of this magnitude, that literally the Renaissance happened. So we don't, something's bound to happen. We don't know, what's exactly bubbling yet. It takes a while for eclipses in their super weird kind of ways that they work to reveal themselves. But
and that's real true, because just we've had conversations about this, and then we've had other conversations recently where people are recounting the life-changing things that happened to them on the 2017 eclipse.
Mm-hmm.
So that's yeah.
But on a bright note, there was a really cool phenomenon that actually occurred during the eclipse concerning another planet, and it's really key. You know, when we freeze the charts of eclipses, like you're looking for a personality the same way you would in a person. You know, what you're witnessing is this really kind of like unpredictable, very powerful force coming into the world. I've seen this over and over again with individuals and corporations, even stuff like that, corporations that went public on the days of eclipses. Facebook went public on the day of an eclipse, actually, and if people probably don't remember, but Facebook actually had a horrible IPO. It was very, like, the stock like totally tanked. Everything was like a complete mess in the beginning of Facebook when it first went public, and then it took a while for it to become, and then you can see it is an eclipse. If you want to put a personality, so you know, the moment, I mean, what are the chances Facebook could have gone public any day in the world? Any day. I mean, it had to be at 9:30 a.m. and it had to be in New York City. You know, that's what's fun about corporate astrology, is that they all have the same birth time and location. It's kind of an interesting thing. But corporations are people too, as what's his name, Mitt Romney famously said. And you see these, you get these really great pictures. Facebook's kind of a interesting example of how eclipses can work. Obviously, for us, we'd like it to work on the other side of whatever intentions and whatever creativity we were generating as we're going into the eclipse, and the things that we were planting, in our thoughts and in our actions and our deeds and in our works. They do bear a weird fruit from the eclipse, whether you know it or not. But okay, Jupiter. Everybody's favorite planet. I mean, yeah. Jupiter's the best. Jupiter's the joyful fat Buddha. Jupiter's the planet of abundance. There's nothing. The word Jove, jovial, these are all words for Jupiter. The word pater, father, comes from Jupiter. Mm-hmm. Pater, father, the all-father, Thor, the best, right?
Yeah. Finally
squeezes into Aquarius on the day of the eclipse, which is like amazing. So Jupiter, if you don't know, Jupiter, all planets have what's called an exaltation and a debilitation point. And when that planet is debilitated, and then it will function at its lowest capacity. So Jupiter has been debilitated in Capricorn for, it feels like 5 years, man. It's been like two, but it's been like two, and it's been longer. Like Jupiter spends 1 year in every sign. Mm-hmm. So we should have just gone bang, like into Capricorn, like ideally move out. But He made it literally to the very end of Capricorn, then went retrograde for a very long time, and then had to go direct. So it's been a very long, grueling process. Jupiter, for the world, really rules like higher teachings, priesthood, eliteness in a way. It's kind of like the higher, he's the better elite. Not necessarily the darker side of that kind of stuff, but definitely rules the economy and the old economy. In particular, the new economy of crypto and all that stuff is ruled by different forces, more ruled by the nodes. It's actually ruled by eclipses. Bitcoin was born on an eclipse too, I believe. But Bitcoin's a very eclipsy energy. So COVID happened with Jupiter debilitated. The GameStop, the stock markets crashes and rises and falls. All sorts of crazy stuff has happened in that period that Jupiter's been in Capricorn. I mean, we've literally, and so now Capricorn, where Jupiter is debilitated, is really the sign of government and big power and all that, big tech, big media, all of that kind of stuff goes down in Capricorn. So it's interesting to think about how Jupiter, the high priestess kind of energy, suffers the most in the government, in administration, and in all of that stuff. It's like, it doesn't work, Kills
the magic.
Exactly. It's just like it's just a buzzkill, no chubs for Jupiter, So this is huge news. I mean, like it's not being celebrated in Western astrology because they celebrated it already. You know what I mean? Jupiter went into Aquarius in the Western chart a few months ago, so it might sound like, well, what do you mean? And that's right. In the Western chart, it is in Aquarius, and some of those effects are already obvious. But I've noticed when the sidereal and the tropical transits are complete, then you really start to see it go down. So this is like really big news, kind of like for the world. We'll see on one side, you'll kind of see the great reset of the new world technocratic, wacky elite. You can see it happening all over the place already as that Jupiter is now moving forward and rolling it out. But also you'll see
can you talk about how Aquarius is more beneficial for Jupiter?
Totally. Yeah. Anything's better than Capricorn. For Jupiter, you know what I mean?
Climbing a big ass mountain.
It's the worst. But if you think about it, I mean, even the symbolism of this part of the zodiac, all right, is like hilarious. I got to share this like astrocomical reference with you. As if you would look at Jupiter right now in the sky, you would see him right in between. He's like literally right on the cusp of moving. He's in Aquarius, like 1 degree, still at 0 degrees, just a few minutes into Aquarius. And you'll see the ass of the goat in Capricorn. Like his ass is right where Jupiter, it looks like he's about to get like shat upon by this goat, right? And this is how I'm telling you, like our ancestors, these people had a sense of humor. Like it's like that for a reason, because everybody gets shat on in Capricorn. Everybody gets shat on by Saturn. He's the god of shit. He's the god of compost. He's the god of death and renewal and karma and reality and all that stuff. So everyone gets shat on by time. And it's just an amazing thing, so if you look at it, the great Jupiter himself is being shat upon by the goat in Capricorn. But as soon as he squeezes out of range of the goat spray, you see the image of the water bearer pouring the healing cosmic waters of Aquarius down, and then you go get cleaned in Aquarius. So you get shat upon by a goat. This is how we do it. You know what I mean? So this is how we look at life. You get shat upon by the goat in Capricorn, and then you go cleanse thyself in the healing waters of Aquarius. So Jupiter can really get down in Aquarius, and if you think about it, looking at these transits of Jupiter coming out of debilitation and into Aquarius are actually really fascinating. I don't have any ones that I can kind of go into right now, but this is a great live example. Knowing this, we can kind of watch from today, and just those themes of what Jupiter is and how it works, we'll start to see it shake out. Because following that, the kind of governmental administrative horrors of that Capricorn can be, Aquarius is a very like individuating, self-expressing, technologically, like trippy, technologically advanced. You know, Aquarius is where they really combine like mysticism and technology and forward thinking. You know, it's a really, really potent,
very pioneering energy.
It really is, because like that point.
This is all good news. It sounds like
Aquarius is amazing. Jupiter actually rules a portion of Aquarius in the Vedic chart, so he feels like extra comfortable there. And in particular, it's the part of Aquarius right where the healing waters are, and you know, we call that those are the cosmic waters of healing. And Aquarius, we will see a rise in like new spiritual movements for sure. Like Jupiter, because all of us who have these different places in the esoteric folk world, whatever it may be, from, you know, traveling musicians to poets or whatever, we've all spent, I mean, even before COVID, we were all being like, how the fuck are we going to do this? Like, this is already shit. It was already such a shit show. But now we've had enough time, and our gears have really been grinded. We've been limited. We've been fucked with. We've had a really, like, a rough couple years in the gym to really, like, work with how, you know, work out how we're doing things. And we have support in that area from Jupiter now, which we did not have. There was no help. Like, he couldn't do anything. It was such a brutal transit. Like, you know, we're kind of like wrapping it up, but we can talk about it more, you know, in the future. But that's the good news. I mean, Jupiter is good news. Jupiter is the good news.
Thank you for delivering some good news.
Yeah, it's fucking,
we all
rare.
need that. It has. Well, thank you very much for that astrological weather report. We will see you next time.
My pleasure.
Welcome, Viva la Renaissance listeners. I am sitting here with my good friend, Nicole Brucato Cooley, who is a multi-talented actor, singer, even a soprano singer, yoga teacher, drama therapist, musician, just Renaissance woman after my own heart, and ancient ancestor of the 90s. So think of this podcast as really me, and Onyx is here, a neighbor friend who's a dog who you'll hear in the background. Yeah, so my podcast is a lot about me taking my listeners on my creative journey, the people and ideas and things that I'm interested in. And so I've always loved, you. Of course, I love you, but also everything you've dedicated your life to is so fascinating to me. So I love talking to you about your professional work as a drama therapist. I love talking to you. I love listening to you play music and sing. And you were also in Elf Colored Glasses, my movie.
Yes. Which was so fun to be part of.
It was so great. And also, you know, during that time I was rattling cages. It was during COVID. So getting people to show up was really hard. And
everyone was in their COVID cave.
Yeah. And you're one of the showy-uppiest people, which hats off to you.
Well, it's the only way to survive, I think. Without all the creative projects and collaborations, it's just you die inside. So
totally,
it was essential during COVID to keep creating, keep doing things, and the opportunity to be part of your project, to be part of Elf Colored Glasses, was really important, because I had been trying to keep the creative juices alive, but all by myself in my creative cave. And to be able to come together for even just one night to work on something together and have fun, it really meant a lot. It really gave me a lot more energy to continue all the things that I was doing, writing the article that I was writing.
So let's start there. Tell us a little bit about your drama therapy practice in Tahoe. which you've just recently been getting established because you're just recently relocated there from New York.
Right.
So maybe we could start there.
Yeah. So I started down the drama therapy path in, I think, 2004. I got my master's degree from the California Institute of Integral Studies in counseling psychology with a focus in drama therapy. And so that's what I've been practicing since then. And then there's a specific modality of drama therapy called developmental transformations. And that's what I've focused on the most. So I've done postgraduate training in that specific technique, and I've been practicing that for the last 15 years. I finally have finished the training, waiting on a paper to be graded, and then I'll be done with the DVT training and able to teach it if I want. So 2 years ago, me and my family, my husband and 2 kids, moved to South Lake Tahoe from New York, from Brooklyn. And we, backtracking a little bit more, or is it the backing track? It's definitely the backing track. The backing track to my drama therapy life was seated in New York. So I wanted to go back there for training. So I, in a crazy way, moved me and my husband and our first child there. And we were there for a couple years and then decided to have another child. So like amidst trying to do all this training and survive in New York and support the family and doing drama therapy, then is like, okay, well, let's have another kid too. But anyway, so yeah, my community was really in New York. And so it's been something to move out to South Lake Tahoe and be in rural California away from my community and to keep drama therapy alive in my psychotherapy practice. And so right now I have a private practice. So I have my own office and I can see clients there. And then also I'm going to start supervising some interns at Carson Tahoe Behavioral Health Hospital soon too. But it's been difficult through COVID because drama therapy is so hands-on. I guess I need to explain more about what drama therapy is. Mm-hmm. So it's an embodied form of therapy. It's a creative arts therapy. So when you think of psychotherapy, usually the picture in your mind is 2 people sitting in a room, the client is talking, the therapist is mostly listening, and a lot of right?
Yeah.
So drama therapy is not like that, especially developmental transformations. The role of the therapist is very engaged, is not the just listening therapist. It's about 2 people, for individual therapy with DVT, 2 people coming into a room to delight in being together in a playful way. So you're improvising the whole time, you're playing the whole time together. You might stop and talk here and there, but mostly you're playing together.
How is your space set up?
So it's an empty room.
Okay.
My office is a rug, basically. I have a colorful rug. And then there is a little desk in the corner. But I have folding chairs folded up in the corner. You know, if someone comes in that can't sit on the floor, then I'll use a chair to sit with them and talk when we're doing the intake. I'll talk to them about their life for a few sessions to get a sense of what's going on, what they want to work on, and a bit of their history. But aside from that, we're sitting on the floor, we're moving around, we're making sounds and movements, we're playing roles, we're exploring metaphors, we're moving around in the space together. And that also means that a natural part of play is touch and physical contact. So we're not sitting across the desk from each other. It's very radical in therapy to touch your client.
Right.
But it's a natural part of play, and it's a natural part of the human experience, and that's why it's essential. And that's something that we talk about, you know, so that people feel safe, and it's very clear why we make physical contact when we do. So that's what it looks like.
Yeah.
It's hard to describe exactly what it looks like.
It's always different because you're doing different things too, right?
Right.
And the play takes on a life of its own, and
a life of its own depending on who's there.
Right.
And that's information coming from the client and the therapist.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not always just following the client and what they're doing. A lot of it is following them and following their lead. But sometimes I'm bringing in things. I'm intervening. I'm bringing in some of my own ideas and my impulses and what I feel in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So you come out of this therapy feeling like you've really made contact with someone.
Mm-hmm.
Not like someone just listened to you or placated you. Or, you come out feeling like, I have a relationship with this person.
Totally.
We have a thing. There's a thing here between us. And you get little inside jokes and, themes from other sessions repeat. And so you're developing this like language together, this language of being together and what it's like to be with this person. And that in itself inherently is healing.
Yeah.
As the therapist, I don't have to be pushing towards the goal that I think needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
It's open-ended, it's supportive, it's relationship-based, it's humanistic. And for a lot of healing to happen, those are the ingredients that you need. Mm-hmm. It's not necessarily the treatment plan or making sure we're working towards this goal,
right.
or what steps did you take in your life this week to get there.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's just the being together, the quality of being together, really being with someone is transformative in itself. Not to say that this doesn't come without any strategy or technique. I mean, I've been studying this for 15 years.
Right.
There's a lot of theory and technique behind it.
But the tools are simple. It's like you understand the depth and complexity of how they work. I feel that way so much about how I study creativity. And, it's so simple. And all of my work is also based in play. And yeah, it's like you just have to get out of the way of it and understand how it's working in a way so you can protect the simplicity. So you can let it happen.
Yeah. You know what's happening, so you can let it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get out of the way.
Totally.
Yeah.
So tell the listeners a little bit about this paper that you were writing during COVID and what this was for you, because you had a published article, which in your field is a big deal.
It just came out last month, I'm not sure, but the email announcement just came out the other day. It's like, the community knows about it now, and it's out there, and it's in print. In the Drama Therapy Review, if you want to read it. Issue 7.2 of the Drama Therapy Review, it's in there.
Great.
And it's called, so the article is called Embodiment and Variation in Yoga and DVT. Yeah. Oh, that's the tagline. The first part is crossing the threshold and crisscrossing. Embodiment and variation in yoga and DVT.
What's variation?
Yeah, variation is a DVT term, and it's varying things kind of across a boundary. It's a little bit hard to explain. I probably wrote a way better definition in the article. And if you really want the right definition, you have to read more of the founder of the method, David Reed Johnson, who is a teacher of mine, a friend of mine, and he runs the Post-Traumatic Stress Center in New Haven, Connecticut. So if you want to know more about DVT, you need to read his writing, and then also the many other contributors in the field. But anyhow, variation is it's how we learn. It's things varying, and we see the differences. Mm-hmm. In DVT, it's an intentional variation that's a therapeutic intervention. So what it does is it expands your story. In DVT, we say dimensionalizes. So I was talking about this with you earlier today. It's like if you have this static story from your life, we intentionally vary that. So let's say someone is coming in to therapy and they are kind of stuck in this story of being the victim in their lives, which comes from trauma. And so in therapeutic sessions, we're intentionally varying that story. So we're going to repeat the story, but it's going to be a little bit different this time. And we'll bring new elements into it, or we'll role reverse. So this is the thing that's happening that the therapist is doing intentionally to like break up the ice. It becomes this rigid thing, and you break up the ice by going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and then you find that the boundary changes. It's like, here was this story, it's this rigid thing, here's the boundary of it. But what about if this time, what if in this scene you were the perpetrator and I was the victim? Or what if in this scene you fought back? Or what if in this scene we had ice cream? You introduce really divergent elements too, which helps to really break it up. Because then you're asking, what else? What else could be? You're bringing in all this possibility. Options, change, hope, love. So that's variolation. And the article I wrote is looking at how that mechanism of change operates within DVT and then also within yoga. So I'm also coming from a yoga background and studying that, practicing that for 15 years. I've noticed similar kinds of patterns happening in yoga that also happen during DVT, during drama therapy.
Can you give an example, a specific example?
It's the mechanism. It's asking for possibility. It's when the yoga teacher cues, now we're in down dog again. Just notice how that feels different than the first time during class. Or just notice we've stretched one side and we didn't do the other one yet. Notice the difference. So I think a good teacher is cueing for those things throughout class. Notice the difference. Notice how you're feeling right now. What's changing here? Or, flow through the sequent, but take judgment out of it. It's not about how far you can stretch today. It's not how awesome your chaturanga was. It's just notice what's happening and be in it. And then I think also noticing how that transforms the practice from each breath to each breath. So, maybe you're going through chaturanga and you're lowering down. And if your mind is open to it, there might be like a surprise today. Like, hey, my arms feel really strong. Yeah. I noticed that. And maybe you do chaturanga the next time, you're like, oh, whoa, I kind of fell a little bit. My right arm was sort of weak that time. Yeah. No judgment, just I'm noticing this. And then how that changes your definition of how your relationship is with your body, your embodied experience changes through that. Because it breaks up these old stories. Like maybe I come into practice thinking, I'm a weak person, I'm just weak, I'm not athletic or something. But maybe through practicing yoga and keeping your mind open, you start to notice, oh, my arms feel strong today. Or I'm balanced, I didn't fall over today. And that becomes incorporated in your story. Yep. Oh, I'm a person who feels this way and also feels this way sometimes. Yeah. My body operates like this, and then it also operates like this sometimes. So it dimensionalizes, using DVT language, that variolation dimensionalizes your experience of how you are in your body in a very visceral way. And that changes your relationship with your body and how you talk to yourself about being in this body and what this body's capable of. And I think the same thing in DVT. We're going in with these stories from our lives about our personalities, about our families, about all kinds of junk. And you go in and you break it up. And you find out, oh, well, there's also these other stories possible. And so then how do you, when you walk out of that, this being in this realm of possibility about your own life, how do you walk out of that back into the world? How might you be acting differently now? Because you don't have these same assumptions and judgments. So I was watching those parallel processes in yoga and in DVT, and so I wrote about that.
Wow.
That this is the mechanism of embodied change.
Wow.
This is how change happens on an embodied level. This is how it works.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I have attempted to articulate.
Yeah.
My readers will tell me
If you succeeded.
if I succeeded.
That was the effort.
That's what I'm trying to say.
I love that, my work is a lot about embodiment also. And even though I came to it from a visual, I got into performing after my visual training as a painter. And then going on in my spiritual journey to the last 5 years of studying Western esotericism and magic and things like that, and really understanding that it's all magic. But I had this, a 20-year yoga practice and teaching practice on my own in my back pocket to draw from all of that magical practice, which it is. A very gentle, guided one where you're initiated in steps along the way. So it works so simply and beautifully that you almost don't even see how yoga is working on you, because you're practicing balance and strength and flexibility on the left and on the right, and then uniting them. And it's all about that uniting, the union of yoga that it's about. And like in magic, there's all different kinds of magic you can practice, but the first thing is like we receive an inspiration or an intuitive idea or something lands in us, that we want to bring into being somehow. So it's like the first thing we have is the idea, the thought, and then and they say this all the time too, you got to write it down or it doesn't exist. You're not gonna be able to hold on to it. You got to make sure that you bring it down into more form. So then you have the word, and there's so much power around the language and like logos, the magic of words being spells that we speak into being also. So we have to be careful how you use words. But also it is the place where we hash out the idea. So you can't be afraid to just be a mess and be angry and talk about the mess. But then when you're using the word, really with intention, that's like the difference. But then after the word, and that's still only existing in this air and thought realm, even still, it's like from there you have to be it, right? It becomes a play, or it unites with music, or it's like Rumi said that the words die of cold on the page, and that feels so true, because it's like they have to be brought to life through storytelling, through sharing, through all these other things. And but even that's not embodiment. It's like embodiment is
and that is why drama therapy is so magical. Because you're not just saying it. Saying it has power.
It's one
and
part.
people do transform in therapy through talk therapy. I don't downplay that at all. I also practice talk therapy with people. Not everyone wants to do this zany thing, and that's fine because we can still work in metaphor. But there's magic in the room when you actually embody a thing that's different, that this other, like, stronger manifestation. And
because it's like that's how you become a different person. You're through your actions, and sometimes it's a repetitive thing to get your wheels going a little bit, where you're like, no, I'm gonna be this confident person now.
Right. And it's a role you can take.
Totally. But that's how, like, to me, because I keep thinking also about, like, just even how everyone's so concerned about the planet and the environment and all these things now. And I'm like, it's not laws, it's not these discussions, it's not seminars, it's literally sitting in nature and working with your hands, and it's my body being in it and of it and assisting it, but I'm collaborating, I'm not in control. And so it's like that to me is the highest level of embodiment, when you're able to collaborate with all these other beings in a really symbiotic way. But I mean, to me, that's like what our role is supposed to be with the planet too, like with nature. But it's like we're so separated from that just because of how our culture is and how our conditioning is.
That's part
It's
of the
like,
sickness that's going on right
Yeah.
now, is this separation from nature, from each other, and it's the terrible loneliness and isolation of that I believe is causing most of mental health problems. If you read the book Lost Connections, I forget the author now, but a beautiful work addressing all that disconnection.
So,
how
and
to
what do you,
reconnect.
I mean, a lot of my theory around it is that it's a lot of our collective technology addiction and also just consumerism.
Yeah.
Like what we embody now is actually just consumerist practice, right? Of me. And we were even talking earlier about, I was just saying how I think we've gone too far with not intervening with people. We're too hands off. We're letting people do their own thing. And it's like, you need to be drawing the community in. And sometimes you got to put the bumpers on the bumper car, you know? Like,
It's hard and it's messy.
It's messy.
Being with people is messy. And so part of us doesn't want to do that because it's difficult, and we will be challenged ourselves.
Exactly.
And sometimes get hurt, sometimes hurt somebody else, even in trying to help. But we're essential.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a radical thing to do drama therapy with people who are struggling with severe mental illness, because I think their isolation is so strong. Often people's families don't want to deal with them anymore. They'll be rejected. They might be rejected out of the workplace. If their behavior is too far from like what we think of as normal, might not be tolerated, or they might not be able to function at work. And so there's just more and more levels of isolation. If you think, well, my family's not talking to me, I can't go to work and hold a job, you're just becoming more and more isolated. So there are lots of drama therapists that work in inpatient psych units and all kinds of mental health treatment facilities. And I think it's just so beautiful and so radical to walk into a room of people who have been very isolated by their communities and bring them into a circle together, bring them back into a community, even if it's only for an hour. That hour can be life-changing, especially because we're bringing them together into a circle to engage in a playful way, to delight in each other's presence, even though they may be struggling with this or that, even though someone might have a paranoid delusion, even though somebody might be in a manic phase, even though someone, may be horribly depressed. It's still possible to stand together in a circle and use our imaginations and play in some way, whatever that's going to look like for the hour. But I think that's so radical and wonderful to do, to say, no, you're connected. We're connected. You're having problems, but we're here.
And you're so
And we can
lovable and
play
whole
together.
and everything.
Yeah.
It's like you're still just as worthy and
of the love and the attention to be here and to be joyful. And I think people are like plants, and we don't realize that because we walk around without our feet connected to the ground. We think we're something else. But I think we are like plants, and we become unrooted and out of the soil, and that's when we start to wither and die. And if we can take each person who's suffering and plant them back into the soil. The soil is connection. It's connection to each other. It's connection to earth. If they don't feel that they're cut off from the growing process of the earth, from the caring process of the earth and each other, they feel they're planted in soil. Someone's caring for them. They're getting water. They're getting food. They're getting love. They're getting nurturance. They're getting connection. They can heal. They can heal. Or even if not completely heal, like tolerate that state of being. They can be in a really difficult state of being, but if they feel that they are rooted in some soil, the soil of community, they can be held you can
Get to the other side of it.
yeah,
And see,
or just tolerate,
too.
or
Yeah,
just tolerate.
just
Like
hang
I'm in
on.
this horrible depression, or I'm hearing voices. But if we can all say, okay, and we're with you, you're planted in some soil. Come to think of therapy as gardening.
I love that. It's great.
I'm like, okay, I'm going to the greenhouse. I'm going to go do some gardening now instead of my office.
Got to prune this, add some
Yeah.
fertilizer here.
Yeah.
I want to hear you talk about how you arrived at drama therapy,
Okay.
even as a sort of outgrowth of your own art.
Yes. So I started out as an actor, singer, and that's what I went to school for, acting.
Where'd you go?
To NYU. And I also majored in psychology. I've always been interested in people. I've always cared a lot about people. So I just had curiosity about that. Also, my parents thought life as an actor might not be good, so you should probably have a backup plan. So I found studying psychology and studying acting really went well together. I think it's all the study of people. And in acting, we talk about, what's the character's motivation. And unfortunately, a lot in psychology, it's more about illness. I like to come from a wellness perspective rather than an illness perspective, but I think it's acting, psychology, it's all the study of human nature, what makes people work, why do they do what they do. Theater is very healing to be part of. It's therapeutic in itself.
I mean, the whole thing, for any listeners that aren't familiar with a theater training, I mean, it's all these games. It's all, they call them theater games, and that's it. It's really just putting yourself in these different scenarios
And improvising.
Combinations and seeing what happens and making different choices about it.
Yeah. And that's where drama therapy, especially DVT, grew out of theater improv games. And now it can be applied to doing therapy. So I didn't know what to do after I graduated from college. I had all this acting training. I did the method. I went to the Lee Strasberg Institute. I was deep in the acting, but I had no life skills really. I didn't know how to run a business. Being an actor is like running your own business. You have to have some skills about how to market yourself, and I just knew how to audition, and that's that. And that's impossible in New York to get anything. It's highly unlikely to get things from auditions. And so, I didn't know what to do. And I ended up moving to San Francisco with some friends. And I thought, well, if I'm not going to do acting, maybe I should do psychology and help people and study people in a different way. And I started looking around for programs. I was looking for master in social work programs, and then I talked to a friend of mine about that who was going to the California Institute of Integral Studies, and he said, oh, you should look into some programs at my school. They have all kinds of interesting therapy programs there. Well, I looked it up, and they had drama therapy, they had somatic psychotherapy, they had art therapy. They're like,
yes,
that's
how I want to do therapy.
This is how I want to do therapy. And I was doing a little bit of it already without really knowing what I was doing. I was working at a group home for severely emotionally disturbed children. It was a really intense environment, locked facility, kids from age, I think the youngest was 7.
Wow.
Through 12. So young to be removed from their homes.
Yeah.
So much trauma, such violent histories, and many of the children were violent themselves. And so I was working in this crazy facility, what an environment to be in. And just loving the kids so hard, And so I started a drama group with them, and so I was doing some drama with the kids, and we would also sing together, and I was bringing what I knew there, trying to shine some light in the darkness for these tiny little kids who were living in this facility, locked facility. I can't imagine what that experience would be like as a child. So I tried to make it as fun as possible and use their imaginations and their creativity, even in this really dark place that they're in, and coming from horrible situations of abuse, you know. So I found out about the drama therapy program. I read one page about it, and I just said, yeah, I'll apply to that. And I didn't apply anywhere else. Just like, yeah, it's going to be this thing or nothing. So got into the program, and yeah, the rest is history. We had, through the drama therapy program, we had, I think it was just one elective class. Maybe it was 2 semesters of this one elective class in DVT. And doing that method for the first time was mind-blowing. I mean, I walked out of that class on some kind of crazy high. I was like, this is it.
Wow.
These are my people. This is it. This technique is phenomenal. You get to come in and be yourself and be together and imagine all kinds of zany things. And also there's the sadness, there's the joy. It holds all of it. And wow, that just blew my mind. I thought, this is what I want to do. And I couldn't believe it for a long time, though. I was like, I could just play professionally. But like, people would pay money to come into a room and play with me. No way. So for a long time, I didn't go all in on it.
Yeah.
And that's why it's taken me 15 years to graduate from that training.
That's so interesting. I mean, because there's so many, like, even like our parents' generation, or thinking about like suggesting therapy to my parents or something, you know, like, just not gonna happen, you know. But yeah, talk about like some of the, I like hearing that you were also reluctant to even believe in this thing. And then how do you see people overcoming that hurdle to come and see you now?
Yeah.
Because also, I mean, I'll just add one more little story about that. Like, it took me so long, even though I got out of college and the first thing I did was start this synchronized swimming and roller skating troupe. And I had...
Which I love.
Like, I was just like, I'm going to be Busby Berkeley. You know, I had a professor, Kathy Odell, in school who taught... I just realized I wasn't doing the gallery thing. And I was like... All right, and I wasn't happy about the scene that I saw. I was like, and I remember I was whining to her. I was like, I really just want to see some different. I just don't, there's nothing cool going on. And she was like, look, if you don't like what you see going on there, you're an artist. Go make it. And I was like, make it? Like, I can make anything? She's like, anything you want. Like, just, I was like, all right, well, I want to basically be Esther Williams right now, but deliver kind of a feminist message with a really strong, embodied sexual femininity. That's what I wanted to do. And I was like, well, I guess I also have to like produce and direct myself, because there was no place for me to go. So like that launched me in that thing. But I could not do theater games for a long time. Like, I was so self-conscious, like, and I was coming from such a isolated, from a studio. You're alone by yourself. The whole myth of the genius was like a thing we were struggling against back then. You know, I was like, fuck all of this. But I couldn't, that vulnerability and the taking risks and failing and being seen in a group, and I had just been so isolated, and I was bullied a lot, and I was always an outsider, weird kid, and I never played sports, and you know, all those things. Like, it took me so long to be able to play, you know. So yeah, I'd love to just hear about that, like overcoming some of those obstacles for even how your clients get to you, and what you had to do for yourself to even like take yourself seriously as a professional.
Yeah, it's still a process of taking myself seriously. I think every year I take myself more seriously, to the point where now people call me for therapy and they don't know what drama therapy is yet. They might not even know that I practice that, because they got my number from their insurance provider. You know, they're just looking for a therapist.
Right.
They don't know what I do. They're just cold calling me. And now I'm to the point where I'll just explain what I do. So before I would say, I do talk therapy, I do drama therapy, I do yoga. I have this menu of services. We can combine this in your therapy for, whatever you're game for. If you want to just talk, that's okay. Now I'm to the point where I'm like, this is what I do.
This is why it's great.
This is why it's great.
And this is why you should do it too.
And if you want to take that adventure, come see me. If not, if you want to sit and talk to someone, I'm probably not your person.
Right.
That because I really want to attract to my practice more of just what I want to be doing. COVID has messed that up because everything went online. And although drama therapy and DVT practice is possible online, it's frustrating for me because I want to be in the room with someone to really do this. So I'll still work in metaphor and I'll still have playful moments. So I'm still practicing the method, the theory, but it's different. It's adapted for a virtual situation. But now that things are opening up, if I'm taking on a new client, I'm just telling them, this is what I do. If you're ready to come in and do this embodied thing, it's really going to be worth your while. Then come on.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Do you see them on like an open-ended basis, or you're like, let's do 6 weeks, 10 weeks and see where we're at? How does the...
Open-ended.
Okay.
Open-ended, yeah.
And like how long do clients stay with you?
Well, I still have some of my New York clients. I've moved around a lot, so that often, interrupts things. But since we have the capability to go virtual now,
how do you do this work virtually?
Stayed. Yeah, it's more about playful moments.
Okay.
So I still have a lot of clients from New York, even though I moved away 2 years ago, and I was there for 3 years. So, some of my clients have been with me for about 5 years. And when I'm working online with them, we'll be talking. And naturally, when you're talking, metaphors come up. And so I'll explore that with them. Like, I'm trying to think of something. If somebody's talking about, say they're talking about being really busy at work, and they say, I'm drowning, I'm just drowning, and they'll often repeat the word, because you're listening for the repetitions, you're listening for the salient elements and emotions and images. I'm listening for images and also feelings in my own body. When I notice I'm having a reaction for something, I look for a way to play with that, because it's important when you're touched. That's important. That's a communication. It's empathic communication. Mm-hmm. That's where the work is. So this person is maybe saying, I'm drowning. I'm just drowning. And I will engage with that in a playful way, because they know who I am and they know how I work. It's set up so that they understand that I'm going to do this with them. I might say, we're over here. I'm in the lifeboat, and most of the time they'll take the offer. Yeah. And maybe laugh a little and say, I'm drowning. I'd be like, I can't find you. I can't see through this fog. And I'm going to shine the light,
Yeah.
And we'll play with it. And there's this whole scene developing through the camera. It still works virtually. It can still be playful over video. And then there's other things you can play with through the videos, like when you're on screen or off screen. Things like that. How close am I to the camera? Are you just seeing my lips right now? Am I backing up? Am I way far away? I can't. You're in New York. I'm way over here. I can't. Our connection is failing today. Maybe we've hit a tough moment. They feel like I'm not really there. We can play with that.
Yeah.
It adds to the therapeutic relationship to be able to have those playful moments together.
Yeah.
You feel like you're really with someone,
Can you talk about, because you're also a mother of 2.
Yeah.
And can you talk about how your education and practice has impacted your mothering?
Oh my gosh, so much. am so grateful for studying play for so long.
You're a professional mom.
Yeah. In fact, I just went to my son's nursery school and gave a presentation on play to all the parents.
Awesome.
And told them about how to play with their kids.
What'd you say? Like, how do you say that to parents that don't know?
I think that one of them, let's see, if I could distill it, I talked for a couple hours, but I think I could distill it down to a couple messages here. One is that playing with your kids is one of the most important gifts that you could give them. And two is like, get rid of the toys, just get down on the floor and play with your child. Use your imaginations. That you're the best toy. You know, the kids are the best toys for each other, siblings or friends, and then parents, also the best toys. Humans are the best toys
I love that.
for each other. You don't need all this junk.
Yeah.
Like all this plastic stuff is just,
Yeah.
it's more interference. And rough and tumble play is good for them. They're trying to figure out where the boundaries are, and that helps them to roughhouse with them and wrestle around on the ground and laugh and giggle. They need that. It's like little like lion cubs crawling over like the mama lion or something. It's a very like basic primal animal thing to have to do, just this roughhouse thing. Mm-hmm. So they know what kind of aggression is okay and what's not. That's how they learn. And then also more of what I talked about with the parents was playing with your kids is especially a huge gift to them, because you're in a really static power dynamic with your kids, or at least you should be. If you're doing parenting right, you're in charge. That makes them feel safe, having those boundaries. I mean, you can't be a dictator. That's not helpful. But to be a strong container and boundary for your kids really helps them. And you give them power where they can have it on small decisions, but the big decisions you're holding, and then less and less as they get older, but they need to feel that strength. And so how liberating is it to then, like, for 15 minutes a day or so, to break up that power dynamic?
Yeah.
In play. You know, they get to be the big, bad, tough guy and tell you what to do.
Right.
You know, when you play with kids, you'll find they often want to be the bad guy, the tough guy, the superhero. They want to kill you over and over and over again in all kinds of different ways. They want to win, and they want you to get up and fight them again so they can win again. It's because the adults are in charge, and they don't feel like they have any power, which they do. Being a child is being in a very powerless position.
True. Yeah.
So what a gift to be able to break that up sometimes with your oppressor.
Yeah.
You know, I think this should be used in companies all the time.
Yeah.
With their bosses and stuff. Everything would be more flexible.
Where is it? Which country is it that there's a holiday that they do? I think it's in India, isn't it? Where there's like a certain week or a holiday where the servants become the masters in the household.
Oh, wow.
And the masters have to serve them.
Yeah. Breaking up these power dynamics. Yeah.
That's a big part of clown work, too, is like they just talk about status, you know, all the time. Because there's so much humor and, these release valves in it. Mm-hmm.
So with my own kids, I try to play with them a lot. I'm exhausted all the time, so it's not easy as a parent. But if you go all in on play for 10 minutes, it's rejuvenating. It releases the stress, and you generally feel energized afterwards. Totally. If you go all in. Yeah. Your kids will nag you to play all the time, and you don't want to play all the time. You have things to do, you know, the dishes need to get done and cooking needs to happen and whatever. So parents will often do this like half-ass play, you know, they're like kind of playing with their kids while they're cooking. And sometimes it's okay to have those playful moments, but when they're, they're really trying to play and they're like, no, put down your stuff and play with me.
Yeah.
Really be with me. If you actually do for 10 minutes, then they're pretty satisfied too. And if you go all in and you're really present and you really play for 10 minutes, they feel better, you feel better, and then it's like, okay, now go to your toys. I'm going to do my chores.
Yeah.
And they'll let you go because they're like, okay, I got it. I got your attention.
A little dose.
I got your dose of attention for the day. So I try to, and it's not every day, but I try to play with my kids in a really focused way where my attention's not being split, where I'm really present with them. And they like to play in a really physical way. In fact, my older child just calls it wrestling. He's like, I want to wrestle. And when we're also using our imaginations and stuff, and sometimes we'll become characters or whatever, but he just calls it wrestling because he likes to be so physical. And so a lot of it is just like rolling around on the bed, trying to overpower each other. And again, it's just playing with that power. And he loves when he can like slam me down on the bed. I have no bed frames in my house for this reason. Because
too many accidents.
I don't want accidents. I don't want kids flying off the bed, hitting a sharp corner. So all my mattresses are just on the floor so that our house is organized to be safe for play.
They're just crash mats.
They're just crash mats, total crash mats. I have a king size crash mat, and we generally don't fall off.
That's really great. I love that way of thinking how to set up your furniture for kids. Can you talk about just the part music plays in your life and how you got your musical education, what you're doing with it now, and how you've kind of nurtured it along the way throughout all these various things you've been doing?
Yeah.
And you've been have you been taking any acting work, during these years of your training and everything, or that backburnered entirely?
That way backburnered. I would like to. Kind of waiting for theaters to reopen and see what the scene is in South Lake Tahoe. I know there's some theater scene there. I've been trying to get in with those people. They haven't totally responded yet, but it'll just, it'll happen.
Yeah.
But music, singing has always been my true joy. I'm in my happiest place when I'm singing. And
from when you were a kid? Like
you've
been doing this from when you were little?
Yeah.
Choirs, band, lessons, what?
So I always was walking around singing. I was an only child. I have two brothers who I'm much older than, so I grew up alone. And we grew up in a suburb, in the woods, with only one neighbor nearby enough to play with. So I was by myself most of the time. And so I would just like walk through the woods singing and imagining things and digging in the mud most of my childhood, just like making up stories. And I think all that alone time made me really creative. I had to do something. So I was always singing. And then in second grade, my school did a musical and they gave me a solo in the musical. And that's when my parents realized that I could actually sing. And so a couple years after that, I think I was 12 when I asked for voice lessons. And so my mom got me private voice lessons. And of course I was singing in choir and then just got more and more involved as I kept going on. So in middle school, I was singing in the choir. I was learning some Italian arias to take to the music contest. I got superior ratings at the music contest, which I was really proud of. I think I did like a small quartet there too. And then high school, our performing arts programming at our high school was just amazing. We had, I was in so many different things. I mean, I was in all the musicals, I was in the one-act plays, I was in choir, I was in Comettes, which was an all-girls singing group, I was in Madrigals, which was a mixed group, smallish, maybe 20, 25 person group. and we went to all the contests, and then I was in show choir, so then it's like dancing and singing. It was like in Glee. We the year that I was in show choir, we traveled to Virginia Beach to the national competition, and we won it.
Wow.
We like conquered Glee. So just singing all the time, more private lessons sometimes, and then going to college for acting. I did not go the musical theater route because although I love some musical theater, I find a lot of it just really campy and awful, and I didn't want to be part of that, and it just wasn't really my scene. Though I love a lot of musical theater.
Yeah.
And I thought, I want more acting training. I've done lots of singing, lots of musicals, and so let me get some legit acting training under my belt. And so so that's why I went to NYU and the Lee Strasberg Theater Institute. I also continued private voice lessons at NYU. San Francisco years, I didn't do any acting or singing right after I left college because I was like, I don't know how to do this successfully. I guess everything is dead to me now.
Aww.
I just gave up on all of it. I was like, I don't sing or act or do anything. But of course, it was still there.
Never gonna go away.
Never gonna go away. I can't help myself. That's my joy. And so then, at some point, let's see what happened after that. Back to New York, and then we were in Boston for a while, and so I started taking lessons again at the New England Conservatory, and that was cool. I had a great recital at the New England Conservatory doing The Telephone, a one-act opera by Menotti. Which is really, really fun. She's on the phone most of the time.
Oh, wow.
And there's this man trying to propose to her, and she keeps answering the phone. Hello, oh Margaret, it's you. I am so glad you called. I was just thinking of you. And she goes on and on and on with her phone call. And then I moved back to New York again. Just can't leave New York for good ever. And then found myself in a rock band in New York, which was awesome because I hadn't really been performing on stage in years, and now I have these 2 kids, and then suddenly I got this opportunity to be in a rock band that was like gigging in New York. So awesome. Yeah. And I never thought of myself as a rock singer. I had always, I was legit classically trained. So it had been a lot of classical music and opera and musical theater, and I was like, I'm not cool enough to sing rock music. But they were like, yeah, you are. Do it. I'm like, okay. Yeah. Can we do Heart? I'll sing Barracuda. It'll be awesome. So that was super. I bought a leather jacket. And then since I moved to... So that really re-exploded my singing career, this opportunity to do a rock band. So since we moved to Lake Tahoe, I've got a new rock band, and now I've started singing with the orchestra. I've had the opportunity to sing both in the choir and as a soloist for the orchestra, and do many little private soirees in people's homes, fundraisers, and getting to sing with some really amazing people, really legit singers, and that I respect, and then still doing the rock band, and then now doing a duo with my husband, playing more like traditional kind of folksy music and playing out at restaurants
too.
Thank you.
It's really great.
So just so much music now. It's
wonderful.
so exciting because it's really all I want to do all day, every day is just sing, and I'm getting to do that more and more. So it's like, okay, great. I'm going to be singing, or I'm going to be playing with people.
Yeah.
And helping them heal through playing with them. Great. Or teaching a yoga class. I want to be in my joy and playing and inspiring other people as much as I can with all the different things, because I can't do any one thing for very long. I need a variety, so that's why I'm the variety
plate
show.
Spinning, right?
Yeah.
You got to get all the things, and this is what I think is really beautiful that I've been embracing about coming into midlife so much is we paid our dues. We worked so hard to acquire all these skills, and even ones that I thought were backburnered or dormant or it's like now I see they were just sleeping for a bit, and now it's time to bring them all together and see how I can weave them together in this
like
new
synthesizing all of these skills that we picked up through the years, through this interest or that, and now it's this midlife thing of
now we get to apply it and really use
period.
it. Yeah. I know. It's like that to me is like the big puzzle, because it's like my visual art had been dormant until I was healing from my divorce. Like I really went back to I literally cried into my watercolors for, the whole time listening to Dr. Clarissa Pinkola Estes in my earphones. Literally, I'm not even kidding. I listened to 10 times of her audio lecture, Theater of the Imagination, while I was just crying and painting. And then I wasn't even conscious of it, but then I had filled a whole notebook back to front with just super saturated images, but I thought I was just healing. And I was like, oh, right, this is here.
This is here.
And now I like it. And now I can fit it into, how do I fit that into my performance? And how do I fit all my spiritual work into my cabaret and crazy sexual liberation agenda,
Yeah. And art is a healing tool.
And there's no limits on it.
No.
Like you're only limited by your imagination. So if you keep your imagination muscle strong, there is no limit.
Yeah. Art has saved me. I go right into writing.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny, I think, because most of what I do is performative in some way. But when I am processing something, I go straight into writing. So my mom died a year and a half ago, and what's helped me process through that grief was writing a play about it. And I had the opportunity to present the play via Zoom at a drama therapy conference that happened in Israel this past spring. And it was so healing to write it, and then so healing to get a couple people to collaborate on it with me and be the actors in the play and have this other experience of, we're talking about my mom's death, but we're creating art together.
Yeah.
So this
really transforming
support by my community, and so that weaves into my mom's tragic story, is also this creative project came out of it that people enjoyed being in and people enjoyed witnessing, and I enjoyed writing, though it was sad, but I needed to just be in the sadness, and then there were people in it with me. It's really transforming.
How do people find you? People that are listening, that maybe they want some drama therapy, or maybe they need to hire you in Tahoe for an event. Or how do people find you?
Oh, you can find me several ways. My website is www.greenroomhealingarts.com. And when I'm taking new clients, I have an ad on Psychology Today. It's currently not up at the moment because life is very full. It's there when I'm ready to see more people. My band in Tahoe is called Bluesberry Jam. You can find us on Facebook, Bluesberry Jam Tahoe. And you can find me Tuesdays at 11 o'clock at Tahoe Rising Yoga and Meditation Center. Those are all the things, I think.
Awesome. And would you describe the song that we recorded the other day of your husband, Ian, and Donny playing backup for you, singing? So we're going to go out on this episode with the song we recorded yesterday. But would you just describe it, what we're going to hear?
We'll be hearing Wayfaring Stranger, which is a traditional song. It's an old song. And it's just a really haunting, beautiful piece of music that I love.
Yeah.
I just love it. It moves me every time I hear it or sing it.
Yeah. Awesome. And maybe we can get our friend Onyx howling with us here
Oh,
as we wrap up this episode. Onyx is a neighbor friend's dog, and they've been away. And Onyx came over the other night for a birthday gathering, and he got singing with everybody. And he literally has not left for 3 days now. I think he feels very seen by all of us, and we appreciate his voice. So maybe we can get him going real quick. You ready, Onyx, for your close up? Come here.
Yes,
Ow, ow, ow! Ow, ow, ow! Ow, ow!
Oh, it's beautiful. I'm done.
All right, that's it. Enjoy the song.
I'm just a poor wayfaring stranger, traveling through this world below. There is no sickness, nor toil, no danger in that bright land to which I go. I'm going there to see my Father and all my loved ones who've gone home. I'm just